Lost Souls. It was nominated for the Mercury Prize, but lost out rather hilariously to Badly Drawn Boy, his album The Hour of Bewilder Beast, an album which featured Doves as his backing band. They actually played on the album that beat them to the prize.
Oh my gosh. Hey, good day, YouTube viewers. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. I'm Andy, and that is John over there. Hello, John.
Hello, Andy.
We are here for another installment where we exchange music. One of us goes off and gives it a listen, and then we come back and discuss in detail. John, you are going to be offering up something for me to sink my teeth into. What will it be?
Well, the Dental Delights this evening come via the band Doves.
Ah, doves, like the bird, which don't have teeth. Okay,
No.
right.
But some of them have flick knives.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I was just gonna say I've heard of Doves before, but I don't think I've ever heard any of their work. So this is another one of those instances where I've heard of, but not from them.
yeah, a massively underappreciated band that should be talked of in the same echelons as like Oasis and that sort of popularity. So yeah, the track you're going to listen to is called Walk in Fire.
Walk in Fire. All right. Well, the title sounds intriguing. And this is, like I mentioned, one of those bands that I have been wanting to listen to, but haven't got off the schneid. So here is my opportunity. I'll go off, give it a listen, and come back and let you know what I think. Interesting ambient sounds.
Seems there's nothing that you couldn't do with the drink inside of you. Is there nothing you'd not do with the drink in you? I've always known that she felt that pain, and it had to start to show.
Some little bass work.
Driven you insane. I could lie, but I can't, 'cause you know it's true.
Right, things have properly kicked off here, or the pace is quickened. It was very much a slow blossoming or an unfurling in the first minute and 30 of the song. I loved the balance of like these ambient type sounds with the more traditional sounds of like guitar and drums and that little bass work that was, kind of accenting or peppered in throughout that intro bit until it really took form. And some fun little hi-hat work to usher in the song on its next sort of evolutionary track as it progressed. Yeah, this is pleasant to the ears thus far. I'd be interested to see where it goes from here. like a nuclear fallout siren, but very subtle, which is kind of the opposite of the intention of a siren. But nonetheless, I think it's apropos. It kind of has that. There is this lovely amalgam of, interesting sound effects, sort of ambient sounds, and again, balanced with this more traditional soundscape of, guitars and bass and drums. Yeah, good stuff.
Always been loose cannon and the way you were back then. You take on anyone. It takes years to accept it all and to be yourself.
I love the tone of this guitar. I didn't want to stop that too much because again, it was going through this sort of blossoming phase and it was sounding so lovely. But before that, what led into that and during it also appeared, I believe, was the sound of this like omnichord or like weird harmonica like sound. I don't know what exactly that instrument was, but that's kind of what it sounded like an omnichord, or I don't know. It could be myriad different things. Outside of my musical wheelhouse, I'm a stringed instrument guy, so I don't know much about this stuff. Though it does remind me of other instances where I've heard similar instruments. So that's what's educating my otherwise uneducated path. But yeah, very interesting injection of that instrument there, and it fit perfectly. And again, I'm going to go back to this sort of in the beginning, it unfurled and kind of like opened up, and now it's continuing the sort of metamorphosis where it's like, again, the only term I can think of is like blossoming or blooming into something larger and fuller in sound. And I like this little journey that I've been on thus far. Yes, that was an enjoyable listen. I really, really loved the bright and at times twangy tone of that guitar. It really gave shades of light to the song. Um, yeah, and I mean, obviously the little bass work here and then was really pleasant as well. The shuffling drums that kind of pick up pace during different parts of the song also gave it a bit of dynamics and movement to the tune. Yeah, and again, like the choices of sort of ancillary sounds or mechanisms added to the song to give it a kind of a, you know, this sort of mix between traditional and I don't want to use I think the word experimental is, you know, a bridge too far, but just this set these other sounds to the song that kind of give it a little bit of musical diversity, um, and you know can kind of set it apart from perhaps other similar tracks. And I do love the way that it kind of like ebbed and flowed in its richness and fullness and sound. That also is kind of like a dynamic tool that I think added to the enjoyment of the track. You know, as far as the lyrical content, I didn't catch that much. Obviously, in the chorus, he kind of repeats that you know the refrain of "walk in fire," and I think he said something to the effect of like, "You don't know or you don't have freedom until you've walked or walk in fire," um, and you know maybe that's something to the effect of like you know you must deal with or experience um you know, setbacks or obstacles in order to achieve anything worth having. Um, Perhaps that's the moral of the story being told here lyrically. Um, which I think is relatable if so. But yeah, this is a really good song. It's good to hear Doves. I've heard of them, but I haven't heard them yet, or at least not to, you know, to my knowledge. So this was a good first experience with them. I would definitely listen to this track again, and even more so, I would be interested to hear other tracks by them and to just kind of learn a little bit more about them in general. And the best way to do that, now having heard this song, is to scurry back to John in hopes that he gives me a little bit of knowledge. All right, let's get back to
Boutros Ghali, he's back. So
him.
you've had a little wander with the Doves,
I have.
um, tiptoed in and out of the fire. What did you think?
Oh man, this is a really good first listen to a band. I think it was fairly easy to digest. There was enough going on that kept my interest peaked throughout, and some like kind of choices and mechanisms that I really found just attractive to the ear throughout it. So it kind of kicks off, and the first 15 seconds is almost just ambient sounds that seem slightly condensed a bit before some like real pretty guitar emerges from it. And there's some also really appealing twang to the tone of this guitar as it picks through the verse. And the song maintains the use of these really interesting sounds still in the mix. For instance, as the drums enter the fray, there is this sound that is almost akin to a digital winding. And at times there's also this like alarm-esque type sound that you hear in the background, though not as like fervent as an alarm, but still present and you hear it. And there's also like the soon the drums pick up the pace around, I think it's like the 120 marker, and the song becomes fuller. And in this richness that's this new tone that the song is taking on, you also pick up these like little bass, you know, walks and fills throughout that are peppered in, and they sound really lovely as well. And just as the song is about to move to the first chorus, we get another interesting, like, whirring sound that appears to have almost like a downward shift to it. Um, and throughout the chorus, there's this reference to the song's title that's repeated throughout the chorus, and shifting at times from "You Walk in Fire" to "I Walk in Fire." Though that's really all I could hang on to, as my attention was constantly being refocused on what machinations were happening in the mix with these like weird, interesting sounds that they were like deploying. So that's about as much as I caught from the chorus and the refrain. And after that, that being the chorus, we get more of this ambient whirring that almost has like a nuclear fallout siren like pattern to its sound, but again, not as loud or as like, abrasive as an alarm, but just sort of the same kind of motif. So after we get this sort of that sort of nuclear fallout sound that I've described it as, we get this work on the hi-hat, which is really nice. It kind of signals like a change, if you will, and that segues us back into the next verse. And another chorus appears, and this time around, I think I catch the singer deliver the line, "You are not free until you walk in fire," which is an evocative lyric. I can only imagine it means something to the effect of, you haven't lived until you've experienced tribulation or an obstacle you have to overcome, or at least that's just, again, I'm catching very few bits of this, but if that's the moral of the story, I think that's a pretty universal feeling that everybody has kind of felt after they've gone through something and gotten to the other side. The chorus winds down, and again, we get more of that hi-hat tapping and now some twanging guitar that's, again, caught my attention, which gives way to this, like, interesting, it's not a harmonica, but it's like, I don't know if it's like an omnichord sounding bit underneath of it all, but it's this interesting instrument that's providing this lovely pattern throughout the music. And during that, the drums are starting to flourish and shine as well, until the song is really, at this point, it's like, in the beginning, it was more of an unfurling of sound. And now it's more of like this blossoming, this like raising and blooming into something larger than it was. And I love that. Like, I'm so along for this ride as it's like evolving, really, is the best way to describe the sound. And the balance that they've struck between all this really interesting sound effect usage with like the conventional 3 or 4 piece rock band setup, guitar, bass, drum, the way that they merge that and balance it in such a way that I've almost forgotten that either one of those portions is there at any given point. Like, it's everything just kind of like coalesces together in such a clean way. And the song then tackles its last verse and goes into the chorus as the song maintains this kind of slow burn escalation that I've described. And like, everything is slowly growing and the sound is bright and beautiful, and the guitars shimmer as the singer delivers that hook line one last time, and the song comes to kind of this like safe landing, as if it was, made it to the other side of the fire, which is kind of like, if you're going to correlate the way the song is constructed and sounds with the name and the moral or whatever behind the story, it all really works nicely. It's all packaged quite nicely, and like, it seems to me to be thoughtful in the way that was done. So kudos to them for that. And I enjoyed the, forgive the pun, slow burn on this one. And it grew on me as it progressed, and I really enjoyed the drums and the guitar work the most. The bass was really nice too, but most intriguing to me was these ambient sounds patched in, I guess, throughout the first half that still, like, in the first half, they're more evident, but I think as those other more conventional instruments grow in sound, they become less the centerpiece and more of like an ancillary piece to a larger picture. And I just thought that was tastefully done, and it sounded great. And yeah, I really enjoyed giving this song a listen. I thought, like I said at the beginning, I thought it was a really good introduction to this band, because it wasn't, there weren't so many moving parts where other parts became undigestible because I couldn't focus on them. Everything kind of was even and balanced, and it made for a good listen and an excellent introduction to this band. So I'd be interested to hear more from these guys. It'd probably come as no surprise after hearing my reaction to this one, but it was good. It was a good song.
Cool, excellent. So yeah, I'll get into it in a sec, but yeah, I think what you refer to in terms of the slow burn and this blossoming out is a technique they use a couple of times. This is almost like a sister piece to a very famous song of theirs in our country called "There Goes the Fear," and it does the same technique. There's only very few songs that they do that does this same thing. But these guys really know and understand song structure, rhythm, and melody, and
Mhm.
I don't know what else you need. I mean, I know that's pretty much the whole
Yeah, they seem like the
caboodle.
pillars of good songwriting.
Yeah, they really, really are so good. And although they had success, they they're just still not mentioned in the same breath as some other bands that are half as good as them.
You
Really,
you named Oasis. I'm assuming contemporaries of them of theirs. Is that
ish,
okay?
yeah.
Okay, ish.
Yeah, so sort of afterwards, but anyway, so Doves. They formed in Manchester in 1998, and they went on to 2010, then a hiatus, and then 2018 to present-ish. Indie rock, alternative rock is what they're described as, and the personnel are Jimmy Goodwin, lead vocals, bass, and guitar. Jez Williams, guitar and vocals, and Andy Williams, his brother, drums and vocals. And they also have a fourth member, Martin Rebelski, who plays keyboards when they're touring and when they do sessions.
Mhm.
So he joins them for that regularly. So the twin Williams brothers and Goodwin met at school age 15, and they kind of um, sort of kept bumping each other. They played separately in the local bands and stuff, but they kept bumping each other. And then they met regularly at club nights at the Hacienda. And so when they got together then, they formed a house stroke alternative dance band called Sub Sub. They had moderate success. One of their songs, Ain't No Love, brackets, Ain't No Use, which is a bit of a banger, got to number 3 in the UK singles charts in 1993. Um, on the Williams twins' birthday in February 1996, the band's studio caught fire and burnt down, wiping out everything they ever had. Um, it led the band members to have a rethink, abandon their previous dance-orientated style, and start afresh as Doves in 1998. On the musical change direction, Jez Williams said, "We were faced with a really black and white decision: throw in the towel or throw the towel in or carry on. And if you're going to carry on, you've got to put everything into it to justify it, because before that, you've lost everything." That was quite a liberating feeling, actually. I mean, check out Sub Sub Ain't No Use on YouTube sometime. It's dancey, whatever, but it's just chalk and cheese to this. It's
Yeah.
amazing that they would.
Well, I
And
love this idea that like a literal fire occurred, and oftentimes you have like this whole idea of like fire
yeah,
is the first cue for
yeah,
rebirth and something new to come of it. And that's exactly what they did. They said, okay, let's take this, let's try to find a silver lining on this situation and
yeah.
be reborn anew, but different, and not just try to pick up where you left off. That's really
Mhm.
cool because you had said they said pack it in or start up again. But there is this sort of third option, right, where you start up again, but as something completely different than what you were. And that's really cool and interesting and fucking kind of, I don't want to oversell it, but kind of brave to be able to be like, all right, we're gonna
Yeah,
throw
yeah,
away everything we knew before this fire and
yeah,
try to do something completely different. Because at that point, they probably already had a following who came with expectations of what once was, and they weren't going to get
yeah.
that.
No, exactly.
Cool.
So their debut album was Doves, uh, in the year 2000, Lost Souls. It was nominated for the Mercury Prize, but lost out rather hilariously to Badly Drawn Boy, his album The Hour of the Bewilderbeast, an album which featured Doves as his backing band. They actually played on the album that beat them to the prize.
Oh my gosh.
And Lost Souls was included in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. Very, very quickly. He says that, just losing his place. There we go. There's Deborah. Lost Souls, Doves. Is that in focus at any point?
Yeah, 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 yeah. It is.
There we go. Yeah, full page write up. Really good album. Not quite got the dizzying heights of their later album. It was still really good, and See the Room is just one of the best tracks of like indie music. Really, really good. So, second album,
Mhm.
Last Broadcast, was released in 2002 and got to number 1 in the UK album charts and achieved platinum sales status in the UK and in Ireland. The lead single, which I mentioned before and probably will do a few times again, There Goes the Fear, got to number 3 in the UK charts, so it matched their sub ranking. And now here's the interesting thing: despite the fact that the single itself was deleted on the day of its release, so you could only get it for physically on one day.
Why?
They thought that was a cool thing to do and made it more
Oh.
special. The performance that they did on Later with Jules Holland of There Goes the Fear is iconic and remains so. If I was to think back of the decades I've been watching Later, that would be one of my top 3 performances, I think. Really, really stuck in the mind. Amazing. Yeah, and that was also in the book 1001 Albums You Must Hear Before You Die. And there it is. They got another 4-page write-up. The last broadcast, the Doves.
Yeah.
And just to say, here we go. Ugh. Yeah, that's I won't take out the shiny stuff. There's the last broadcast.
Nice.
For some reason, I don't know where my Lost Souls is. Oh, See the Room, there's the EP, Anywhere I Bore You, and there's the others. They're all there. Anyway, so this track is taken from their 3rd album, Some Cities. Now, the last broadcast, the album before, was special. Really, really good. I they're going to have to go some to top it, and I really believe they did. It was released in 2005. Now, interestingly, what they did was they recorded it away from urban influences. They'd been touring for pretty much 2 or 3 years around the world at this point, and they kind of came back to Manchester. And half the places where they grew up and around had changed, like shops had changed and things had been closed down. It's just natural, but it really struck them. So they went away and they recorded it in cottages in the countryside of Snowdonia, Darlington, and around Loch Ness. Jimmy Goodwin said, lyrically, the theme of cities and towns and change started cropping up a lot, which is strange because we were recording and writing in the countryside. But it started taking this real urban shape. And so I think that's why you get the kind of postmodern industrial sounds that you're hearing at the start of the track. And it happens in other records as well. It's just, I think, layering a bit of atmosphere.
Yeah.
And as you say, they're really good at doing that tastefully, so it's not overwhelming or it becomes that, like you said, that siren is quite a powerful noise, but it's done very subtly, just sweeping. So they're really good at stuff like that.
It kind of reminds me of and believe me, subtlety is not a word I would use to describe it, but the same idea and ethos is behind, what Per Ubu was doing, being from the American Midwest and injecting some industrial kind of sounds from their natural surrounding into their music.
Yeah.
They're much more ham-handed and playful with it and kind of being funny about it. This is a more tasteful and tactful way, but the same kind of ideology. It's cool.
Yes, the album went straight into the charts, debuted at number 1. Platinum again. Closing track, Ambition, was recorded in an empty Benedictine monastery in Scotland, which the band had found while doing a photo shoot for the album. The huge reverb effect was achieved using the acoustics of the main hall. In a 2010 interview, Jimmy Goodwin said, I look fondly back at Some Cities period, going to this old house in Scotland with Ben Nevis out the window. I spent 6 weeks up there in Scotland and didn't want to come home. My mum had just died and I just wanted to be away. So they've been through, I know during the last broadcast, his father died around the time they were making the previous album, and then this album, his mother died. So it's tough times for him. Anyway, just a snippet of some of the reviews. Drowning Sound said, it's not a concert album per se, but it certainly carries a central theme: alienation, recourse to old ways, and a general state of detachment. Music, OMH, an ethereal outpouring of emotion. Melancholic madness meets soul-soaring serendipity head-on. This is an ode to the industrial heartland of their childhood, at turns crunching and urban, desolate and apocalyptic. And All Music said, the ambitious indie rock trio is much more direct and exact this time out, and it's a great shift in style. Some Cities percolates with a more of a hopeful but grounded spirit, an English spirit. Escaping the dreariness of Manchester is what fueled Doves to start a band in the first place. Some Cities isn't Mancunian downer. It's very real and Dove's best yet. So you're going to get a flavour of what they're talking about.
Mhm.
Right, lyrics. Seems there's nothing that you couldn't do with a drink inside of you. Is there nothing you'd not do with a drink in you? I've always known that you felt the pain, and it had started to show. It had driven you insane. I could lie, but I can't, because you know it's so. You tell me you walk in fire, you walk in fire. You're not free till you walk in fire. I walk with fire, I walk in fire. You've always been a loose cannonball, and the way you were back then, you take on anyone. It takes years to accept it all and to be yourself. Well, you tell me you walk in fire, you walk in fire, you're not free till you walk in fire, walk with fire, you walk in fire. And then there's that instrumental break. And yeah, I know what you mean. It's that sort of ha 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 ha. It's like an electronic version of a harmonica, isn't it?
Mhm.
It's a nice sound as well. It's quite pleasant and
Yes.
a little bit crappy at the same time, which we know we love our
Yeah.
crappy stuff. And it builds, and you get these drums coming in, and on there goes the fear. By the end of the song, all three of them are playing percussion. They've
Mhm.
got two drums and one percussion, and the keyboard guy comes in as well. So they're very rich with their percussion. They have almost like samba beats to the end of that song, and you get this not quite as much, but you get the same feeling here that the drums are building and the drum patterns are building. And this verse, I think, is lovely. On, and day by day, we fool ourselves, we ain't the same. Everyone who stayed away, man, I always felt your pain. On, I tell myself, fool ourselves, we ain't the same. Everyone who stayed away, man, I always felt your pain. You tell me you walk in fire, you walk in fire. You're not free till you walk in fire, walk with fire, you walk in fire. Um, so yeah, my notes. I've already said this, but it's a sister track to There Goes the Fear, the way it's construction of the song, the building layers crashing in an emotional climax. One of the comments on the lyric sites was there's lots of people talking shit about this, but one say he basically sees it as abuse mixed in with both substance abuse as in alcohol, etc., but
Mhm.
also emotional abuse as well, and the sort of cycle between them, and that's
Yeah,
that
yeah.
walk fire. It's
And how
basically
the two are connected, right? Because one begets the
yeah,
other.
fuels
Yeah.
the other. Yeah. So just carrying on for the story, the fourth album, Kingdom of Russ, hit the number 2 spot in the UK. I don't know why I didn't hit number 1, but it's a really good album. But it hit number 2. The band has subsequently stated that the writing and recording of the album was the most difficult and fractious of their career. Following a worldwide tour and promoting the album, the band announced an indefinite hiatus in 2010. So Jimmy Goodwin released his debut solo album, Audio Deck, in 2014. It's quite a. Oh, I will take it out of the plastic. It's quite a nice looking cover. It's this pointillism.
That is
Um,
pretty.
you
There's
know,
the palette of colors is really gorgeous.
yeah, it is, isn't it? It's an okay album. It's not brilliant. It's not as good as anything it does, but it's nice. And if you're a big fan, it's worth having.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, the title is Polish, meaning pilgrim or loner. Goodwin wrote and played almost everything on the album himself, with only a handful of guest musicians. He said initially, I wanted to have loads of guests on it. Maybe I wasn't trusting my own instincts because I'd collaborated in a band for so long. But that idea soon went out the window. Very quickly, I decided I want to get my Prince head on and play everything. I loved that. I became very protective of it. There was no one steering me. I made it myself and paid for it myself. And that was very free and liberating.
Mm.
In the meantime, the Williams brothers sounds like the male version of the tennis players, and the Williams brothers
Well, I thought
formed
the first time you said it, but I bit my lip. I was like,
they formed the band Black Rivers and released an eponymous album in 2015. I've not heard it yet, but I can imagine it would be along the same lines. The band actually got back together in 2019 for some gigs, and then released their fifth album, The Universal Want, in 2020. Went straight in the charts at number 1.
Mm.
In October 2021, the band cancelled their upcoming tour due to Goodwin's mental health, making a statement that performing live isn't possible for us at this time or in the immediate future.
Mm.
We have to take each other's welfare as seriously as the music. I think that's a great quote, and and they put it out as a collective. This thing. So as I think as of this moment, they're still sort of taking things easy, and he's sort of looking after himself mentally,
Mm.
which is
Yeah.
fair enough. Just as another note, Goodwin is left-handed, but
Oh,
whilst playing live, he uses a right-handed bass, and he just flips upside down and plays it Hendrix style up and
Hendrix
on.
style, yes, exactly. Yeah.
He also plays drums on certain tracks live as well, like I said before, with additional percussion and that samba beat at the climax of There Goes a Fear. So that's does for you. Really, really solid band, and I think I would say at least 3, 4 tracks on each album are inspirational and just uplifting and gorgeous and wonderful and solid songs.
Yeah.
Not that I say there's a Duff song on their albums, but they're upper echelon stuff. So, yeah, I mean, they are appreciated at the time. The record sales prove it. But then no one mentions. Do you remember Dubs from like 10 years ago? That was awesome. No one harks back to it as one of the
Mm.
big names through the 90s into the noughties, and they really should be more appreciated.
And there's
Uh,
no rhyme or reason for that.
None. I mean, I don't know if they played the game or not. I mean, when you see their videos and stuff, the comments just go on and on about how such an underrated band. I mean, I don't know if it's the same sort of couple hundred people writing those comments, but you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
it's bizarre. I mean, they're not underrated like the Sound or the Chameleons or something like that, but you know, they should be more highly valued than they are. Anyway, I will stop ranting
Yeah,
and wrap this
really,
up.
really quickly, John. Let me just say two things. One, two good things have come up from this episode. I've heard the Doves, which is good. I needed to, and I've learned that I should probably take "Badly Drawn Boy" off my list of potential songs to give you because it sounds like you're familiar with them. So,
Yes,
okay, all
yes,
right, I will nix it.
yes. What was it? Who fed the fish and all that? Yeah. Anyway, yeah, my mate was really into him and sort of foisted it on me. I think it's all right, but it wasn't, my favorite
Yeah.
thing. Anyway, that aside, thanks so much for listening to this, folks out there. Tell us what you think of this track. I know it's not one of the big tracks from Doves or even. I think this album it was Snowden, which is another really really nice. But I've always had a fondness for this song. I think it's the construction there.
Mhm.
So tell us what you think of this song. This album is a Bobby Dazzler, I believe. I think a lot of people are probably a touch more fond of last broadcast, and fair enough. But yeah, drop some comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you like this, please hit the like button. The more likes, the more it filters through slowly into everybody's space and invades their minds until finally we'll have a grip on everybody. Then we will squeeze. No, I'm revealing my plan too quickly.
Yeah, come on, easy.
If you haven't subscribed already, please do and help build this channel. We really appreciate everybody who supports us. That being said, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see all of you on the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you later, guys.